me and Lori just jump right into this. First and foremost, welcome to the Soccer Podcast. You say Christina Uncle, Lori Lindsay. We have no formalities, and we get right into the referee questions. So, Jill Loyden's conversation or question or point of the continuation.
Yeah,
foul.
well, let me set the stage.
Let's
okay?
do.
So myself, Jill Loyden, Jordan Strauss, who is a longtime Apple Television for MLS, Apple TV for MLS producer, also does Saturday night producing for the Ion game with Jill Loyden
cool.
and JP Dellacamera. Okay,
I love
so
JP.
We all three live in, all the best, all of them. And we all live in Philly, and the joke is that we never get to see each other. Well, at least I don't, because I'm traveling all the time to different places. That I'm like, I never see you all, except we all happened to return to Philly at the same time yesterday. And I'm like walking to go get a cab, and I'm like, Jill? And then around the corner comes Jordan. So we're all giving each other a big hug. It's a big reunion, even though Jordan and I live like down the street from each other too. And Jill's right outside the city. Anyway, I say all of that because we're all catching up at like rapid speed about like how our games were this weekend. And Jill was like, oh, I was wrong about this call on my game, which was Utah versus, pretty sure it was the Utah versus Washington Spirit 3-3 game. And what calls was, Jill was explaining to me that there was contact outside the box, Christina, but it carried into the 18-yard box. And so then the question was, if that's the case, that's a penalty. She thought, no, the contact was outside the 18, so it shouldn't be called a penalty. But that's where she said she was wrong. And I'm like, let me bring this up to Christina on this podcast.
Yeah.
We do have this referee segment, so let's hear it. Anyway, you needed to get all that background information just for the fun of it.
No, and it's important. I love Jill to pieces. Incredible goalkeeper, right? So Jill, you can always call me too, even live. Janelly Farias does that. She'll text me sometimes live. So a little secret. Don't let ESPN know that because then they won't pay me. But all that being said is this is the continuation foul, right? And it's just easy to remember. There's two different types of, when we talk about continuation foul, the only one that applies to is holding offenses. So grabbing, pulling t-shirts, etc. If you start the grab and it's outside the penalty area and you continue to hold it and it hits obviously the penalty area line or inside, then the foul, the location of the foul is at the spot that the hold stopped, aka continuation. You hold it, and as soon as you let go, where you stop, that's a penalty.
Okay.
Everything else is not a continuation foul. So holding is an exception to the rule. So
why is that?
It is because it's the point of contact, right? So if you're committing a foul against someone, let's say it's lower right ankle or whatever, as soon as you make that contact, that is the foul, that's where the snapshot is taken, right where it happens. Not if it's like, hey, you swept their leg, you continue to sweep their leg, and now they're on the penalty area. It's the exact, and we just had it. Oh, I'm going to kick myself. We just had it in Europa League. Was it against Man United? I don't know. It might have been, I know, the Man United producers are saying.
Yeah. But a typical foul, it's like the point of contact, right?
Right at the point of contact.
The holding is because, yes, you might start the holding offense, let's say, outside the box or wherever, but then it's like wherever that person's actually dragged down. That you call the foul in.
Exactly. So the upper body challenge, the kind of the holding and the pulling, and that's just the exception to the rule. So God, I'll remember that. But yeah, there's a clip that we happened, I think it was Europa League last week, that a lot of people were confused as well too. Like, why is that not inside? He hit him, and then the follow through came through while he was on the line. It's like, well, it's the initial contact. So that's the answer. I know. I wish I was trying to look up the clip really quickly, but either way, hopefully Jill was right or wasn't.
Well, no,
right?
she actually said she was wrong because of the holding. But that's why I was like, let's just bring it up and talk about that, though, in terms of the differences of like an actual, just like a foul versus a holding offense. So,
and actually, that's one of the main reasons I even did TV for like the rules side of it, or the laws of the game, but no one could say rules, or laws of the game, so they say rules. Is that the more that we educate the voices of the game, right, the more that it's able to be explained so that people understand it, so referees get less referee abuse, verbal abuse. So I love it. And that's going to shout out to you. I mean, like, Lori, there's so many people like you who care. You guys text me. You guys ask questions, not from a place of like assassination, but just truly becoming, understanding every single angle of the game so that you guys speak properly. We educate the fans. And at the end of the day, my goal is to make my job on TV obsolete. I can thank VAR for not making that a thing. So
Okay, do you
job
actually?
security.
I actually have another one for you then, since we're on this topic, which is really important. Okay, so it's in my game.
The segment's called Lori's vent
Yes,
session.
exactly. Well, no, because I do think these are so important as well, because we're all extension of one another, right? It's all part of the game. There's
Look,
things that are
Jetter Law can sponsor this. Yes, I'm looking at you, Chloe and Co. They do sports immigration, which they're great people. So
exactly. I do think this is so important though, because laws do feel like they're changing. It's like and when I say changing, I just feel like we're always looking at ways that how can we improve the game? Do we want to speed up the game in certain ways? Do we want to all these different things, right? So, and also that's what I do for a living, is to bring this to a viewer. And there's so much nuance to some of it too. But here's an actually interesting one. And my buddy and a broadcast colleague wrote me about this as well. So I had Atlanta versus Philly. Atlanta's hosting on Saturday night for Major League Soccer, and the play essentially was a Kai Wagner bent-in ball to the back, in behind the defense, right? Brad Guzan, Atlanta United goalkeeper, has to come off his line because he needs to be the one to try to clear it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful ball, so it's actually difficult for him to play it. He misplays it, and then that allows for one of the attackers for Philadelphia to like get into the box then, because it's a misplace. It carries it into the box, right? Or he's in the box, but regardless, a Philadelphia attacker is able on the far side to get into the box. And one of the defenders for Atlanta United, Abram, goes to ground to try to block this shot. And as he's going to ground, hits his hand, right? So to me, it is a clear yellow, a clear penalty, hit his hands, even though you can make the argument like, all right, he's gone to ground, like what else is he going to do with his arm? But still, to me, it's like, it does hit his hand. And also additionally, so I'm thinking it's a penalty and a yellow. Mm-hmm. That's what's called, right? But my buddy Ross Smith was also, and actually there's a perfect angle, and this is what I'm curious about, because I was trying to understand in real time because I couldn't really text back with Ross. And this is where the question comes to you, is he was saying that they're also looking for a red card potentially for DOGSO. And I was actually curious. That's how I understood his text. And because we had a great angle, if that hadn't hit his hand,
it's in the back of the net.
Yes, exactly. And I was hesitant to say it because it was a bit unclear for me, but he said that is actually a new additional rule. I don't know. So I was actually kind of, does the question make sense to you?
It does, but is he saying that the new rule is that it is a red card, or the new rule that it remains a yellow card, even though it's a DOGSO?
Well, let me actually read his text, and then this will be great. And
shout out to Ross, by the way.
I know Ross is great. Okay, so he said, Lori, I think they're looking at it as if it was a red as well. Or not on a Brahm, the new rule of deliberate DOGSO versus not a save action or not is essentially what he's saying.
Got it. Okay. So I know what he's
saying. You do? Because I was actually trying to like decipher that as well. But I was like, okay, that does make sense in some way, the way that I was reading it. But I was like, I need help with this.
Yeah, no. So like a lot of those questions, like you kind of hit a couple of things, right? When someone's slide tackling and it hits their hand, the first question is this a bracing arm, which is typically the arm between your body and the ground, right? Is this a bracing arm? Is that a natural motion for a slide tackle? And that also talks about timing, whether you've started the slide tackle and then the ball's hit and your hand's already there, or the ball's hit, then you do a slide tackle and your hand magically it expands and makes itself longer, right? So bracing arm is the conversation here. Also, the most critical and most important point is the goal itself, right? And the shot on goal. So let me pull up just so that people know the laws of the game. There's always that kind of conversation of, and I always remember distinctively being in like a FIFA course, and it was when they were still balancing back. I call handling what's it called? The Goldilocks thing. Too hot, too cold, just right. We haven't found the porridge, right? Yep. So they would say like, hey, would you call this a handling offense in the middle of the field? We're like, yeah, 100%. Or no, we'll never call it. No, we'll never call it. And then they gave us, okay, well, what happens if we move it right on the goal line? Would you call it then? And we're all like, ooh, right? Because of the impact of taking away goal, even if it's accidental itself. So I'll go take a look at that play. So I have caveats to make sure I qualify my statement right now, right? But anytime they go through the DOGSO side of it, and handy dandy shout out to Laws of the Game app for DOGSO.
I always forget about the laws of the game app.
Oh my God, it's so good.
have it.
And
I
it's
have it.
free too. So it's law
Yeah.
12, thousand misconduct, right? We're talking about disciplinary action in and of itself. So, and if you scroll all the way down, there's an entire section talking about denying an obvious goal scoring or an opportunity. And then they go into, it's like subsection 2. Sorry, really dorking out for everyone, but this is called citation, where a player denies opposing team or goal or an obvious goal scoring by committing a deliberate handball offense. Player sent off wherever the offense occurs, except a goalkeeper within their penalty area. This isn't the situation here with the goalkeeper. And so the question here is this a deliberate or non-deliberate handball offense? The offender is cautioned. So if you go into the new laws of the game, you'll see it. Actually, let me see if I can show it. You see that yellow highlight right there?
Yep.
That's what he means by clarification that it's a new thing. So here we have a player who's denying the opposing team an obvious goal scoring opportunity, but it's a non-deliberate handball offense because he's slide tackling and it's his bracing arm. So we're not talking about it's an accidental handling offense, right? Because he's slide tackling, but he's preventing a goal from happening. That's why it's a penalty now and just a yellow card instead of a red card, because you just got to make a determination: was it, and back to his point on was that a save or was it not a save? That typically goes into like, and it's only on shots on goals, right? Is the defender saving it from being a goal in the back of the net, right? We always associate saves with keepers, but the same thing. If it's the last defender or if there's like one or two and they're trying to save it from being in the back of the net, that's where they're trying to determine whether it was intentional or was non-intentional. They made the determination it's non-intentional. It was his bracing arm going in for a slide tackle, aka penalty, yellow card only. Make sense?
Yeah. But also, where does the triple threat or whatever come into that too? Like, you wouldn't give a penalty and a red card, right?
Yeah.
Or like, that's not triple, but that's double.
Actually, I always argue that was a quadruple threat, right? So, and just for God, we can dark out on this all the time. Welcome to our show. Right before, right? Any obvious goal scoring opportunity was always a red card. So they were like, okay, penalty, you're down a person, and you get a red card. I called it quadruple because that player is then out even the next game. Typical sanctioning, you sit out a game. So that's why I called it the quadruple threat. And no one ever understood what I meant, but that's because they were talking about the additional sanctioning. So this kind of more falls into not the triple threat of saying red card, penalty, and you're down a man or a human. It goes down more towards the conversation of was it fair? Was it fair? Was it justifiable in the sequence of the play? Was it justifiable that person trying to attempt to save had their hand in a natural position, and therefore we typically would not have sanctioned for it except for the fact that the ball was about to go in the back of the net. So it's trying to find that resolution that doesn't overly punish the defender who is naturally playing the ball in a justifiable scenario, but also not taking away that goal scoring opportunity from the attackers who need to find it. Yeah. So that's where it sits.
Yeah. So just if so then obviously it's only a yellow card and a penalty because there is a goal scoring opportunity taken away.
Yes, there's a goal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. A goal scoring opportunity taken away by a non-deliberate handling offense.
Exactly. Makes complete sense. Got it. Yep.
Yay. Okay.
Hopefully look at us go. Oh my God. Just like,
Well, I never get this much time on TV. I never get this much time on TV. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in my ear when like, I'll get like a long question, whether it's Mike Grella or Jamie Carragher, and they'll go on and on and on and on and on and on and on to ask the question. And I love them both to pieces. And then in my ear, the producer's like, you got 10 seconds to answer that. I'm like, what? And then I'm like,
good luck.
I know. And I'm so like abrupt sometimes. I'm like, do. And then like the hosts and everyone are like, oh, okay, is that it? I was like, yes, Matt just told me we have to go to adverts and I do not beat Heineken now. I can tell you that as a fact. I go,
that's what makes television wonderful and also challenging because you have to get everything in, but you have to be succinct about it. And then it's like, am I getting that across in a short amount of time? So
yeah. Hey,
perfect for the podcast. Perfect for the podcast.
Shout out to Shaw Brown. He's the one who taught me that. My first ever TV on Fox, like what it was, 30 something games for the 2019 Women's World Cup. Like I remember my first one, I'm like, do. He's like, anytime the ball goes into the attacking phase, lay off for people like Lori and Chris Whittingham to get in. I'm like, okay, note to self. Great. I literally always have 5 to 10 seconds unless the ball's out. We're going for a substitution.
And huge shout out to Shaw because he was our producer on this match. So
Oh, I love Shaw. That's another person in the industry everyone should get to know. He's just a good human, good person, and he knows his stuff. Like, it's so funny where
he knows the game. Yeah.
yeah, and he also knows how to like do punditry, right? So like I don't know what I'm doing. He gave me like 4 or 5 points that to this day like are so important. So when I listen to like people doing TV work, like I can hear I now know what he means, right? Like
100%.
you know, like the energy, right? Getting up when you do your production, right? I know you stand up as well too, and it's just like having that voice and the emphasis and the pop and getting right into it. Doing European football in England, they're always like, "Wow, you like answer the question right off the bat." I'm like, I was trained to do.
You're like, I was asked the question, I'm going to answer it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get to waffle. I got to give you my opinion. And I mean, if I know it's an unpopular opinion, you'll tell my tale because I'd be like, you're not going to like my answer. Wait for the answer or wait for the explanation. But this is the answer. Or it would be like, I'm not giving you the answer because I will lose all the audience in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it always somehow seems to be Inter Milan that gets affected by my answers. But the reason I know that is shout out to the Serie A fans crowd that always comes after me.
Yes.
Yeah, which that was a wild day yesterday. All right. So where have you been this past weekend?
Well, actually, I spent majority of last week in Orlando because I had Wednesday MLS in Orlando. And then I had, which was Orlando City versus Charlotte midweek. And then I had NWSL Orlando Pride versus Kansas City Current, which was 1 versus 2 teams. So fun match there. And then I made my way to Atlanta for Saturday, Atlanta versus Philadelphia. So, and
that's crazy.
Fun game, but goodness gracious, credit to Philadelphia as well. They are flying high and doing really, really well this season. Fun team to watch.
No, it's we should call it the Lori circuit. Like seriously,
it is the Lori circuit. I know. You know, it's interesting though because typically it's 2 games a week, and so that's completely manageable. I think you talk to any pundits or analysts, broadcasters, like that seems reasonable and like. You know, there's a lot of synergy between the games, even if it's men's and like MLS versus NWSL and vice versa. But every so often you have a midweek game, but very fortunate because typically I try to like, I'll know my schedule in advance. So then I'm like, okay, if I'm already going to be in Orlando, can I get on the MLS Orlando game? And that just makes it easier for everybody, less travel, cost, everything, and less travel for myself.
You being like efficient to them and also getting another gig or 2.
It's like, well, right. We already had midweek games. So it's like if I, instead of being in Nashville for a game, might as well be on the Orlando game and I just stay. And then it's like, yeah, efficiency is the name of the game when it comes to this. So here we are. But yeah, great weekend. How about you?
Good. It was a weekend I actually stayed home. A team unfortunately tied the #1 team, Carolina, which is shout out to Carolina for clinching the first ever inaugural shield for the USL Super League. Unfortunately, it came on. We could have beat them. That was the frustrating part. So we do have Carolina's ticket. They've never beaten us. So we're the only undefeated team against Carolina. And then we clinched our next playoff spot. So the Tampa Bay Sun is officially in the USL Super League playoffs. So now we're just hosting. Yeah, it's such a thanks. It's like it's a wait, and then it's like, okay, celebrate, move on. We gotta go. We gotta host. This is Tampa Bay. Shout out to Mayor Jane Castor for calling it out and saying like, women pro sports in Tampa is real and alive, and let's secure it. So anyway, that's what my weekend. Oh, and then sorry for offending everyone in advance, except Lori. I'm not going to offend Lori with this. I can't stand kids' birthday parties. I can't.
Fair.
I don't go to them.
But I want to know why.
Once again, sorry for offending everybody. Because typically
I think this is just honest conversation. Like, keep it going. I think more people probably feel this way than not. So.
This is real. So like, typically your kid gets invited, and mind you, it wasn't a birthday party, but it's along the theme. But you go to a kid's birthday party, you don't know, at least I don't know everyone. I don't have like shout out to the moms and dads who are able to be connected and have the mom and dad group and all interact and do kids play dates and all that. Shout out to you guys. I'm not hating on that. I just don't. So then whenever I have to go to a kid's birthday party or a kid's like social coordinating thing, I am horrific at it. I'm like like you gotta have like small talk, and I don't have patience for small talk.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have to always eat like pizza or like burgers or like just really like kiddie food, like just kids food. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh God. So you have to eat before you get there.
Okay, I am down for some cake though. And
Oh, for sure.
typically,
If it's a
like, I'm like,
Publix
give me
cake,
some,
yeah.
yeah, like a sheet cake. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So
no
give me that,
fondant.
but-
Don't give the kid
yeah.
fondant. Or a cookie cake. Those are my favorite from the Great American Cookie Company.
Yeah,
But
fair.
so I'm just I'm bad at kids' parties. I specifically avoid them. Shout out to my mom who always takes up Quinn, or Ted who ends up taking Quinn to a kid's birthday party, and I get out of it.
Yeah.
So I somehow ended up hosting an end of the year party for Quinn at our house because it was last Monday. And this is the real deal of mom guilt, especially when you work a lot. And she's like, Mom, I really want an end of the year party. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, well, school ends next Friday. We're
Wait,
in
how old
Florida.
is Quinn now?
9.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
guess 8 because I was thinking that she was 8 still. But
Yeah, no, 9. And so I felt bad. And then I looked at my schedule, which there was no time in the day to have any kind of a party. So I was like, all right, well, Sunday afternoon it is, I guess, right? It was Monday or Tuesday, and then I had to go do the invites and all of that stuff. So literally shout out to all the moms and dads who host this type of stuff. But
yeah.
not my
Oh
cup
man,
of
I'm lost
tea.
about this.
And then I felt horrible because then we clinched the playoffs and we're on the phone call with the league trying to figure out like the proper timing and the ticket sales. I'm on the phone here. Parents are dropping off their kid, trying to get my phone number because they're leaving them with me and I've never met them before in my life. And I was like, who just drops off? Like, it's great. So I'm on the phone with the league, welcoming parents in, the pool party, trying to do popcorn chicken and cut watermelon.
Popcorn chicken.
I was like, at least we can do popcorn chicken. I am not built for this. And then I had Syria Galasso, and like my producer Nash, he was like, you look tired. I'm like, I'm stressed.
Wait, Nasher's telling you that you look tired. Oh, goodness. Love that, dude.
So shout out to everyone who does kids' birthday parties, kids' events. I'm horrible. I'm the person who drops my kid off, let alone a kid doesn't go there, and I'm not very good with small talk. So
you drop them off around the corner so no one sees you, and then you just peel out. Is that what you're actually doing?
But like,
Which
I mean,
is like next level and awesome if that's the case.
biggest shout to the parents though, because like when you're a mom, like there's like this expected thing that you have to sit there and talk to everybody. Where like Ted will go and like with the soccer fields, right? Like all the moms get together and then they look at you expecting you to join the tribe, and you're like, no, I want to sit here in the corner because you guys are just going to yell boot the ball, or you're going to be yelling at the referees, and I just don't have the tolerance for it. Ted gets like this free pass to be like not talk to anybody and stand in the corner and watch it. And like if I do it, like I get this like horrible look, like I'm a horrible human being. And I was like, I need his pass, so I got to figure that out. So it's not that I don't like people.
I think
it's
you
just...
set the new standard. Like that just it doesn't need to be. Oh no! Yay!
Speaking of setting the new standard, well, hello, my dear. Welcome.
How are you?
Yeah, great. How are you?
Good. Was it a surprise, Lori?
Yeah, totally. But every guest is a surprise for all of us. Like it's just like who's going to be on?
It's such
great
a
to
cool
see you.
little dynamic you guys have.
Yeah, no, it's been so fun. How you doing?
Good. I'm just trying to adapt to this retired life.
Yeah.
It's hard. Give me some tips, Lori.
I don't think you need them. Listen, retired life is like, I think we'll all agree it's amazing. We're like, hell yeah, this is it.
You have no beep tests. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah,
no, please go.
You started at Janelly already with learning the TV broadcasting and getting on that circuit. So you can get as extreme as Lori and Moa do, or you can do how you do. So go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say you're right though in the sense that it is like such a it is a challenge in terms of like identity and getting away from competing and what that's like, and being in a locker room and all your friends are in one place every single day. So I don't want to say like ever sell that short, because I think that is a real thing for all of us, that every athlete goes through. But also at the same time, it does feel like, okay, this is what real life is like. This is awesome. And also like, what? I've had a schedule presented to me like every single day. How do I live life without somebody telling me what to do? So, but also, hi, great to see you.
Yeah, nice to see
And welcome.
you, both of you. I'm like, I obviously miss the having a set routine every day. But what I miss the most, I think it's that, like the team dynamics. Being in the locker room, like having that energy. And now it's like, okay, what do I do? I still do the same things. I still eat the way I do. I still go to the gym. Like that part hasn't changed you know,
Yep.
but it's like I have a lot more as it is as a professional soccer player, you have a lot of free time. And now it's like I have even more free time. But I'm
Don't
enjoying it.
don't ask Lori and I. We will definitely fill that free time up for sure. We
I'm open to it. I'm open to it. Let's do it.
No, I would just add one thing that you just said. It's like, I think the biggest thing was like, you have built-in friends that you have become so close with. I mean, any team dynamic, you're going to be closer with some than others, but it is like a built-in family. And then with us, like with like the U.S. Women's National Team, and then like depending on what club team you played for, it was like, wait, do I have any friends like when I retired? Because everybody like lives across the country. So you're just like, okay, like I used to see you every week, and now I live in DC or Philly, like wherever I was at the time, and you live in Seattle or LA, and you're just like, okay, this is strange. And then you're just like, kind of like, what's the deal? Where are my friends? That was like a real thing for me. But I mean, then once everyone starts retiring, you're like, okay, let's live near each other. This isn't anything now. So
So what's up? Talk to me.
yeah,
It's so funny because Janelle's like, "What are we talking about?" I'm like, "Whatever you want to talk about. Like, we could talk about everything. I mean, you retiring, your new broadcasting, career. A lot of the stuff you do off the pitch. So it's Janelly someone I've always looked up to, like just the way she leads. Right? She lead. There's this quote I always say, like, lead in a way that causes others to follow, and I think you do that definitely, and beyond, your borders, beyond everything, but. I don't know. We could talk about what your time playing pro soccer here in the United States and the differences that you see in the global growth of women's soccer. We can talk about. Do you like flour at corn tortilla? That's really important. Actually, stop that. I need to talk about that. Flour or corn? What's your preference?
Corn tortilla.
Ah,
I don't eat gluten. So
boo.
fair.
Fair. All right, I'll give you that pass. I'm a flour girl. Lori is particular.
Well, I'm both. I think it just depends on the
See, there's a
chunk of-
particularity.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, did we actually get to the bottom of you were a flour tortilla?
Oh, I will always go flour unless it's a true Baja Fresh street taco, and that's
See.
what Janelly typically eats too.
Yeah.
Then you got to go with the corn, and they're like
Yeah.
this big too. They're like that big.
Yeah.
the little ones.
Little
Oh,
size.
maybe I should cook for you two someday.
Please.
Yes.
Yes.
Love,
Thank
love,
you.
love cooking.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
I've
then
been doing a lot more of that lately now that I have more time.
Well, let's start there because I'm just curious. Like, I think it's an interesting conversation for athletes that are retiring. Like, what was the draw for you? How did you know? That sometimes it's presented to athletes because, unfortunately, because of injury. But like, yeah, what was the final decision and like that said, okay, this is the time for me?
Yeah, so I've been considering it already for a few years, which is also why I've been like doing broadcasting whenever I can and working on projects like off the pitch whenever possible because I didn't want my identity to just be playing soccer. And that's like I think that's like the hardest part about this transition from professional athlete to like normal person, I guess you could say, is like where our identity is tied to just that, and it's like okay, I need to build my brand around who Janelly is as a person, not just as a soccer player. So it's been something that I had been thinking about for years, and then these past like 6 months, uh there were a few like life-changing things in my life, like life-changing moments that happened, that made it like very clear for me, like, okay, this is a step that I need to take now. I need to go in this direction. I dislocated my shoulder in my second to last game as a professional soccer player, and you can actually see the scar. Show you that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm queasy.
And it was like I had dislocated it like 20 times, and I said, all right, if I do it one more time, like that's it. Like I can't go through this anymore. And sure enough, it happened in quarterfinals, the home game in November of this last year. I popped it back in place, and I kept playing like people didn't even notice. I was in pain more than anything. It was like emotional pain because I knew that was gonna be it for me. And then uh huge personal event happened. I don't know how to refer to it. I don't want to go into detail, but um, a tragedy happened in my family, um, and like all within the same time frame. Had my surgery that happened, and it was just like, whoa! Like we just never know what's gonna happen today or tomorrow, and I realized like I no longer want to be far from the people that I love. So it made it very clear for me, like I want to be close to and with Rebecca, the love of my life. I want to be with her every day. I want to be available to my family whenever they need me. If I need to go home, I'll go home to them without having to say, "Oh, I have a game or I have soccer." Like, so it was just that. I think it was very clear for me because of those things. I still think about going back to playing every single day. But yeah.
I'm just gonna open up like a practice player spot for Janelly anytime she just wants to come in and play here. I mean, like, you come on in, you can practice play.
You wanted to sign me?
No, I
Oh,
was
that's
I wanted
amazing.
I know I wanted to sign Janelly. Shout out to MTK, right? I always get it wrong. MTK, okay, the agency, and it's so funny because I'm in negotiations with her agent, and he's just like, so, and I'm like salary wise, I'm like, tell the girl to stay in Mexico. Like, I can't afford her.
That's
Yeah.
a little bit talking point too, is salaries in Mexico.
Oh, they're crazy. Like I was not expecting that. So I mean, like, right, we have Liga Femenina, right? We have now NWSL, USL Super League. Now you have the Canadian, Northern League. Like, it's so cool to see all of these opportunities and all these things, and the salaries are all over the place, to be quite
Yeah.
honest. But I was delightfully surprised how much players are getting paid to play in Mexico, and the sponsorship deals they get, and the followers that they get. Like, I kind of laugh. I have a couple of players who played for Tigres and other clubs down there, and I'm like, how did you get that many social media followers? Like, oh, the one season I played down in Mexico. So, like, Janelly, like, what's that space? Because I do personally feel like in the global conversation, I don't feel like Mexico's covered as much as other leagues, and you guys are doing some groundbreaking things down there.
Yeah, so the salary difference is just within Mexico itself is insane, right? There are, I'd say, a few teams where maybe you'd make, like, there's players that make maybe 200, 300, $400 a month, and then you have teams like Tigres where you have players making man, maybe $300,000 a year or more, and that's not even including like sponsorship deals and collabs. And so there is a lot of money within women's soccer. It's just not allocated equally. So that causes a big gap in how competitive the league is. So there's like a bottom eight teams, and then like the top eight. And there's like a huge division. So like it's very clear when the last place team plays the first place team. Like that game might be like 7-0 if the the bad team is lucky. Um so yeah, it's very interesting because I think because of that, it's enticing. A lot of people want to come play, and then once you play and you're making that kind of money, you don't want to leave. But then at the same time, it's like I think it's holding some players back because there's some players that uh they have the quality to play in better leagues, and they won't leave because they're making that much money. And I'll use Rebecca, my girlfriend, as an example. She made a big sacrifice. Like, she's captain of Mexican national team, and she's like, "Hey, like I'm gonna go play in the NWSL and play in the most competitive league in the world because she did it because she wants to grow. She wants to find the best version of herself, and she sacrificed money for that. And that's something that not many players are willing to do for Mexico."
Yeah. Would you find, just for the listeners too, like, let's say it's one of the top teams, right, in Mexico, are the salaries pretty spread out evenly amongst that team, or there huge discrepancy within a team as well?
There's also discrepancies within the top teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's huge discrepancies. I'd say maybe um there's a player on Tigre is making making $1,500 a month, and then there's somebody making $25,000 a month. So
Yeah.
it's huge. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah.
Actually, how does that like, it's obviously my first go about running a pro sports team, and I mean, in for you two who are now back into general population and no longer actual professional athletes, right? Like, the conversations about salaries is typically, I like to think it's typically not a thing in corporate America, but like in the player locker room, they all have conversations about it all the time, and half the time they're not even telling each other the truth. That's also kind of the funny part, because like I'll get feedback and I'm like, that person don't make that, and I know that because I'm the one who signed the contract. But how much does that affect the locker room energy when you guys all find out each other's salaries and stuff like that? I'm so curious on that. One, because I'm experiencing it, but two, like, just
Yeah, that
I don't know, how do you guys mentally protect each other from that?
that's an interesting topic because it does affect the locker room dynamics, I think. Um, it's hard. Obviously, it's like every player handles it differently in their own way. But I know, like, I've been in situations where, there's players that are really upset about it, and maybe they don't want to be your friend because of it. Maybe they don't want to pass you the ball because of it. But for the most part, I think people kind of just accept that's how things are, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think if you think you deserve to get paid more, you should fight for it and, use your voice. That's also a whole other topic. But yeah, I don't know. Lori, was this like a thing for you when you were playing?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, it really wasn't. We weren't having those conversations specifically in club. I mean, it was a general understanding with the national team because everyone's either making the same salary with the national team, or there's a few different tiers. So you just kind of understood the tiers, but it was, and that was earlier days. Now it's completely changed where the contracts and the CBA is, if you get called into a game, right, you make the game appearance, but then you also get the bonus if you win, or and all of the different aspects of like if it's like a top 10 team or how it. I don't even know. It's not in front of me, so I don't know all the specific details. But it just changed considerably now, and also there's just more money involved. So I think those conversations weren't as happening as readily as they probably are today. So no, it wasn't totally a thing. But yeah, so I can't speak directly to that, but I would imagine, yes, that's challenging, knowing that there is more money and you want to. It's always like the conversation too about like fighting for, to your point, Janelly, about like what you feel like is your worth as a player, and being also thoughtful about that approach too, and in the long term of that. And so yeah, it's just there's so many aspects, I guess, that go into that. And I mean, obviously agents are important in that, so that the player doesn't have to speak
Very
directly to
important.
it, which I think, yes, exactly. The
I keep
go-between
advocating.
for
Everyone's like,
that.
I don't have an agent. I'm like, get one, please, but get a good one because there's a lot that aren't good.
But it is it is an interesting conversation because I think the biggest thing on the men's side, I would say, is like there's one thing if you are like a Messi or Ronaldo and you're making all this money, right? But then also the players that are generally filling out rosters are making hundreds of $1,000s, if not millions of dollars, right? So the lower range is so different than what the lower range of women's football has been. So it's like, does that make sense what I'm saying? It's not like, hey, I'm making $1,500 for the month compared to like that's what somebody's making quadruple that in a day.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's interesting because it's like, right, there's always something. So I'm not sure. They don't have a union down there, right? Like that's not legally enforceable.
We don't have
Oh,
CBA.
there's a whole topic. I just saw your reaction on that.
There's I don't even like to refer to it as a players union, but there's something.
Mm.
I don't want to get into that. Just gonna get like angry.
Yeah. Ooh, Janelly
Yeah.
raging. Then she gets to go and like meditate for like an hour. I think it's, and the reason I say that is because like I believe there needs to be a player union. I believe there needs to be a coaches union.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be, and this is gonna be, and like I know it, sitting on the side from a legal perspective of always having a right and a voice to be able to advocate for one's position is something I believe in. Even when I give that advice to someone, knowing that advocacy is going to be against me sorry, there's a little bug. When advocacy, when there's like something against me in the sense of like, right, I only have a certain amount of budget. Someone's going to negotiate for higher amounts or want to, blah, 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 blah. But I do think there needs to be a voice because I think that's the beauty of it. Because I could definitely, now being in this seat, see how maybe some business people who have not been in your guys' shoes might make those shortcut, decisions of saying like this person, I'm willing to pay them X amount of money, right? Especially where the game's going and there's still more spots to play professionally, but there's less spots still for the number of people who want to play, that we're going to have to, the women's game's evolving to like similar to the men's. There's going to have to be, pre-pro, amateur 1, amateur 2. You're going to have to fight for your contracts. There's a lot of players who are on the same kind of band that I get presented to all the time. And I go, what makes that one a 1% better than the other player? And then why would that be higher than so-and-so, right? But the reason I say this is because that's interesting where I didn't realize you guys had the differences in the pricing. It makes sense, and go figure, I seem to go after the players that were paid in the 200, 300,000 timeline. So I just think that is needed because it creates that parity, right? So the pay bands are equivalent, right? A rookie should not be making more than, a seasoned vet, right? Unless that rookie has these, I call them kickers, right? Like play for the full national team, right? Or, the leading goal scorer or something, because they're still not yet proven in the pro game. We all know the college and the pro game are two completely different beasts. You're not proven on that. But I really, really, really do think, sorry, coming back to all of this, is there's got to be some control on the salaries for two reasons. One, the players and just really the management expectations. People at the bottom don't get hurt as much. I'm okay with people making money, but a lot of that's through NIL deals. But two is like the business model of the game is still growing. So they're about to, if people aren't careful, they're going to basically price themselves out of teams and out of leagues because they're demanding so much that they're not going to be able to receive it, and then they're not going to have many options. So it's a fine balance, but I don't get it. Okay, go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. This is, I feel like we could do a whole podcast on this conversation, right? And just like the growth of women's sport and how phenomenal that is, and how we've all been echoing from the bottom of our lungs to be like, this is amazing. Hello, put money into it. But I'm just curious, like your adventure though. You talked about realizing, okay, like I might only play for a couple more years. I don't want to just be seen as Janelly the soccer player. So what was the catalyst to get you into television broadcast? Mm-hmm. What else are you passionate about that you have your hands in as well?
So I got offered to do broadcasting for the first time in like 2017. It was, I think, maybe the U17 Women's World Cup with Telemundo in Spanish. And I was like, no way am I going to do that. But my manager was like, no, come on, like you got to try this. And I was just like,
wait, why was your answer no way?
I was like, well, first of all, English is my first language, and people don't know
Yep.
that when I speak Spanish. Like, oh no, Spanish is your first language because I'm fluent. But speaking in front of a television, live TV in your second language, it's terrifying.
No doubt.
So I was like, yeah, no way. I did it. I was terrified. I was terrible at it. But they called me back. They were like, yeah, we want you to do, like, I think the next thing was the 2019 Women's World Cup. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, okay, let's do it. And I started doing that, and I thought, okay, I don't like this, but this could be like maybe something I do in the future. And then started doing it in English too. And I thought, oh, maybe this is definitely something I could be doing in the future. So I told my manager, I said, hey, every time I get this opportunity, if soccer allows, I'm going to do it. Don't let me say no. Even if I don't want to, like, say yes for me. And that's actually what he did. So I started doing maybe 2-3 gigs a year while I was playing. I've had some great coaches that like kind of allowed me to, miss some trainings if I needed to. Which it's hard, and because this is, when you're a soccer player, it's your job. But I've been, very grateful that I've had coaches that understand that the women's game is different than the men's game. That, 4 or 5 years, I couldn't live off just a soccer salary, and I needed to do these things. So that's also why I started doing it, because there was one point where I was playing for the Mexican national team and I wasn't making any money as a soccer player. So I had to work like all the time. I think I had like 3 jobs at one point. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I've kind of just been, open to different opportunities. So right now I've also like kind of I'm taking a little break, trying to take a little break and not do too much, like so soon after retiring from professional soccer, which is hard. I don't know how to take a break. But
we can't give you any points on this show. On
yeah,
that.
I'm doing my best. I've been working on a book, which is really close to deciding on a launch date. I think maybe end of June, beginning of July. And in the book, I don't want to say it's an autobiography, but I do talk about, important moments in my life. But the main like point of the book is, I want it to be a reflection of the status of women's soccer as I was growing and developing. Yeah, I mean, I'm open right now. I'm really open to trying different things. Like I'm an open book. I'm not closed-minded at all. I kind of want to see like where my like new passions take me.
Yeah, no, I have two thoughts on that. One, like, kudos to you big time for like just like try not to do too much, because I think that is a real thing, especially as the game has grown. And I know one of the things for me when I retired, it was like I was trying to replicate that feeling of playing in a different realm. And I feel like you just get caught in it's instead of like, okay, let me just take a deep breath and see really what I'm drawn to or what's coming to me. That's easier said than done for everybody, especially when we have a mentality of like, competing, doing this every single day. But I think it's incredibly important. Um, and like I said, kudos to you to like recognize like, okay, let me just see what I'm drawn to in different ways. And now this version of myself. And also like, congrats on the book. Full stop. That seems very cool. And also within that, I think you make a good point about, um, just like the growth of the women's game too. It just like we've all been there, right? I witnessed like what it was like playing with our women's national team, nowhere near what the salaries are now, but you could still make a living playing with our women's national team. But if you didn't, you were playing and doing multiple things, multiple jobs elsewhere. So it's just incredible um to know that journey, and I feel like that absolutely can't be lost. And we have so many players that from specifically our US women's national team as well that came before us and have a whole nother slew of stories, right, and fighting and growing the game, and then just everyone continues to carry that on to where we are now. But it's a story that I feel like can absolutely not get lost for the growth of the game, and that needs to be continuously reminded because it's such an important history of women's sport in general.
Yeah, I think you got to definitely capture that because it's one of those things. It's I kind of sit back and I probably look way too psychological at at players and teams and dynamics and how do you create a culture, right, of that winning mindset. Where I've been exposed to the U.S. women's national team quite a bit coming up, where it's like, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, knowing that each one of those players could be replaced by the person on the bench effortlessly, right, and everything kind of fell in line. But it's like right now where I'm seeing a need, and Janelle, just because I know I've tapped into your mindset a little bit when we were out in LA, is that tapping into that performance mindset because so many players thankfully are coming up in scenarios and situations where whether it's college, like everything's taken care of, housing's taken care of, right, like the schools are beautiful, the resources are great, and then they're stepping into the professional world and they're like, this needs to be like this needs to be like this, and you're like, well, welcome to being your own revenue generator. Right, so it's like finding that need of what need versus a want, and then entitlement versus like fighting for it, improving it. It's right now we're in like what corporate America was like 20 years ago, right? We're now in that it's kind of weird to do the parallelism of corporate America and women's soccer and how you get that athlete to just click in and say, like, not that we should go backwards, but at the same time, I don't want to say be grateful because I think we've all been told to be grateful for having a league, be grateful for being an opportunity to play. That's not the word because that gives PTSD to all of us. But there's some word that needs to be had there. And I've always loved your brain. I was like, find a way to tap into that next future athlete of saying like get your shit together, like let's figure this out, right, like here's the resources you have, here's the best you can make of it, and then let's crush it. And once you do that, it obviously helps corporate partnerships, fan engagement, revenue generating, more resources, blah blah blah, we're all in.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit in LA, and I think I mentioned to you that I think like part of the a problem with like this new generation of soccer players is that they're just kind of complacent with the way things are. Like you said, right, that they have like the sense of entitlement, like, oh, like, they didn't have to work for a league or for a salary or for, like they kind of just, they have these resources now. And it's like, how do you find the balance between, like you said, being grateful? We've all been told like, oh yeah, you have to be grateful and like that should be enough. No, like that's wrong. I disagree. Like we can be grateful and ambitious at the same time. So it's like
Mm,
you find that how do you find that balance? Like, I don't know. I can tell you that I've been living it, but how can you like teach that to other people? I don't know. But one thing I do know is that um having that type of mindset, it is contagious. It's like, so if you have, I think, the right people in the room, the right people on your team with that mindset, I think it's going to be contagious, like little by little. Like, we talked about that before too, but then it's also like hard. Like, how do you know you have the right people, to build that that team culture and tap into everybody's heads individually?
Outside of the book, what else have you been dabbling in since retiring? Like, what's exciting you?
Um, I'm obsessed with the gym, so that hasn't changed. I go to the gym a lot, 2 to 3 hours a day sometimes. Sometimes I go twice a day. Um, I've been cooking a lot more, like a lot, which is nice. It's like therapy for me.
Janelle's going to come out with a cookbook. That's her next project.
You know what's crazy? I actually started working on one years ago. And I just put it on pause. But now it's like, maybe I could start doing this now. But no, I don't know. Like I love cooking, but then like like the draft I have of the cookbook is just like it started stressing me out. So maybe if I got some help on it, I could make it work. But no, I'm living in Washington D.C. now.
I was going to ask where you were. If you were,
Yeah, just playing for
yeah,
Washington Spirit. I go to her games when I can. So I've been watching a lot more NWSL than before. I mean, I've always watched it, but not like I do now. Now I watch every single game.
yeah,
I've been there's days when I watch like 4 or 5, 6 soccer games on TV. I don't know how, but it's just like all day, like different leagues.
yeah.
Mexican League playoffs are going on right now in the Mexican League, the men's side, the women's side just finished. So yeah, I've been watching a lot more soccer than I thought. I'd never thought I would say that, but I am. Um, but yeah, I have just a lot of free time. I love listening to podcasts about personal growth, about soccer. Um, I'm really big on just like my mindset, performance mindset in everything that I do. Uh, so I love learning, reading, listening to books.
Awesome. Well, you are going to have to tell us when your book comes out so that we can push it here on the Soccer Podcast USA. That'd be
And the
exciting.
cookbook, Janelly.
And the cookbook. Just like send it to me and Lori and we'll cook it and we'll let you know. Can we be like what's it called? The forward or the reviews or whatever it is, a thing on like the inside panel?
Yeah.
Wait, why don't you
Uh,
I mean, I cook. I don't know if I would say that I am good at cooking.
I can put something together if I have to. I wouldn't call it like I made bread during COVID. Everyone made bread during COVID, but I made bread during not sourdough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, give it to us so then it could be like a foolproof dummy thing. If we can cook your recipes, then you're golden. What kind of an endorsement would that be?
That would be really
You-
But no,
that would
once I get the book out and everything, and yeah, I'll be sure to send you two each a copy for sure.
No, that's
Perfect.
awesome. Thanks. Well,
Yeah,
thanks for
thank you
jumping
so
on the
much.
call up. I appreciate it. It's fun. It's exciting. We get to surprise each other. And I was like, who but any Janelly? We have to have her. So thank you for jumping on with all your extra free time.
No, thank you too, and yeah, hopefully we can keep connecting.
Yeah, of
Absolutely.
course. It's never gonna end. Thanks,
I'll let you know
Janelly.
when we're in Washington for some games.
Yeah, let me know for sure.
For sure.
I should actually get up there. That's a good point. All right, I'll do that. I'm just gonna quick
Yeah,
trip.
unequal, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Janelly. Have a great one.
All right, see you
All
too.
right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So Lori, you
Bye.
can't cook either, huh?
Well, I like, I'm learning how to cook. So much of my life I was not cooking because we were on the road, and I'm still travel quite a bit. But it isn't something I am drawn to it, but I haven't taken the time to
Mm.
like learn how to like easily throw things together. I mean, when I'm home, yes. Like, do I enjoy going out to eat? Philadelphia has some great restaurants, absolutely. But do I also like putting stuff in the air fryer and whipping up some vegetables? Yes.
Popcorn chicken.
Can I be? Yeah, some popcorn chicken, exactly. Can I be way more savvy? No doubt, like 100%. And I am finding myself more and more drawn to that. I'm trying to say, quit things or say no to more things so that I have a bit more free time. And so we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, I just
Maybe
think
I'll be cooking more.
maybe I was like actually I was going to say one thing that hit me when you both were talking about was Janelly deliberately and intentionally trying not to book things after she's done with retirement, and your comment about like filling that void with the next adrenaline rush.
Yep.
Like I sat there and I was
So
like,
true.
holy smokes, I wish I had you two at that time in my life, because I went from the field as a FIFA referee to right into broadcasting. COVID happened, and then Champions League happened the year of COVID. And it's like that adrenaline junkie rush is a real deal thing. I didn't get it more in my identity. I replaced it with something else. God, I wish I had that back.
Yeah, very real for me. And actually, it took me a couple years to realize that. afterwards when I was like, I kind of felt like I was going in the wrong direction. And I was like, okay, let me reset. Well,
Yeah.
I think like that's just the way that the journey happened for me. But I do think it's incredibly important nowadays. And if you are afforded that opportunity or able to take it, then it's really the way to go, because you can just reset and then like reassess too. Just be like, okay, like and reminisce on what you have just done for several years, and now things are going to look very different, which is totally okay. And more than okay and exciting in a lot of ways. It's just like easing into that, I think, is really important, and just noticing what you're being drawn to. Because as easy as it's said to be like, okay, I want to try all these things while I'm playing, right? Some players take that opportunity, others don't. It depends on what you have available to yourself. So all of those things are easier said than done. And I think it just really comes down to the individual. And so if you want to jump into things afterwards, go for it. For me, I just know that the intention behind it was chasing a feeling where it was just like, okay, let me take a step back.
Yeah, and this is my problem. In my brain, I'm like, great, we're going to create a business where past players are able to reflect for current players to help them in their transition. So
yeah, it's huge though. That
it's
huge. Yeah, it's really big. Yeah.
All right. Well, where are you this weekend? I mean, one thing I think we can guarantee is you're probably on a circuit somewhere. One thing that was a surprise this weekend is LA Galaxy did not lose, but they tied 2-2. Thank God.
Well, midweek they almost won and then they didn't, and they lost to Philadelphia Union. So, yes, but contract extension for Greg Vanney, so that's huge.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, all right. So that meant ownership gave him a bit of the bypass when it comes to all of the injuries that happen, et cetera, that they weren't just looking at it from a win-loss record, but they're looking at it from a more context.
As you would know, running teams too, and just be playing, there's always so much more nuance that's involved in just the wins and losses. I mean, you're coming off a championship win, you play the longest season, short off season, all the injuries. What's the rush feel like that from that? So how do you... Yeah, I mean, one of your best players, Ricky Pooch, is injured. So all those things come into play. But where am I this weekend? Let's see. Seattle for NWSL on Friday night, Seattle versus Washington Spirit. And then Columbus is playing in Charlotte. So I'll be in Charlotte versus the Columbus Crew on Saturday.
Oh, nice. Columbus Crew's always, I love their coach. I think he's solid.
Fernandes is amazing.
I'm going to put it on record. I think he's going to be a U.S. men's national team coach in his career, like effortlessly.
He's fantastic.
Effortlessly. Well, great. Well, enjoy the weekend. I probably won't run into you this weekend because I'm horrible at running into you even on the road.
You will not run into me. You're in Florida. I will not be close to Florida.
Well, that's probably better chances.
But congrats to your team. That's wonderful. I love that your team's going to playoffs. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, our last inaugural home season game is this Saturday. So flyovers, fireworks, all of that jazz. Get to do that. So long season, good season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to go do that. And just last notes, if you run into JP, tell him I said hello. I know he doesn't have social media.
I won't run into JP this week, but in a week's time I will be. And he will be getting a big hug from you.
Yes. I mean, I can always text him, but it's better to go through you.
We'll shoot you a photo. Don't you worry of the two of us together. So,
awesome. Love it. All right. Thanks all. So anyone can watch the Soccer Podcast USA on all of the different platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. And find Lori and I running around with our heads chopped off as usual. See ya. Don't forget to follow us on the Soccer Podcast USA as we continue to bring you big names and bold opinions. That's it for our show. See you later.